What it do, Blessed K Crew, and today we're going to be talking about marriage and polygamy. Quick disclaimer. So, God is against polygamy and he is for marriage, which is a one man and one woman, one husband and one wife, not one man and many women and one husband and many wives. No, that is not the order and the natural nature of the Most High. Okay, so we're going to be speaking about that, and we're going to go into the book of Matthew 19. All verses. When Jesus had finished saying these things, he left Galilee and went into the region of Judea to the other side of the Jordan. Large crowds followed him, and he healed them there. Some Pharisees came to him to test him. They asked, "Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife for any and every reason?" "Haven't you read," he replied, "that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female, and said, 'For this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate.' Why then," they asked, "did Moses command that a man give his wife a certificate of divorce and send her away?" Jesus replied, "Moses permitted you to divorce your wives because your hearts were hard. But it was not this way from the beginning. I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another woman commits adultery." The disciples said to him, "If this is the situation between a husband and wife, it is better not to marry?" Jesus replied, "Not everyone can accept this word, but only those to whom it has been given. For there are eunuchs who were born that way, and there are eunuchs who have been made eunuchs by others, and there are those who chose to live like eunuchs for the sake of the kingdom of heaven. The one who can accept this should accept it." Okay, so we're speaking on husband and wife, and we're also speaking on eunuchs. And eunuchs were actually men who castrated themselves in order to have a life of celibacy before the queen. So again, when they say are those who choose to live like eunuchs, they are talking about people who live a life of celibacy. And things in that matter. Okay, so that was Matthew 19. We're going to go into First Peter 3:7. That'll be our next verse on marriage and polygamy. As soon as I turn to First Peter, let's see. First Peter. I should have just said Hebrews. That's what I should have said, but it's okay though. First Peter. That's Ephesians. Where's First Peter at? First Peter. That's First Timothy. First Peter. That's Titus. That's Philemon. Where's First Peter? That's Hebrews. That's James. There we go. First Peter. Alrighty. Peter 3:7. Husbands, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives, and treat them with respect as the weaker partner and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Okay, so we're also speaking on marriage again. And in this case, it says husbands, and it says in the same way be considerate as you live with your wives. So he's speaking to many married people, or men and women of God. And he is also speaking on how you should treat your significant other. So all this abusive, toxic masculinity that people do to their significant others, God is not with that, nor is he condoning that. And also it goes the same way for females too. So now that was 1 Peter 3:7. We're gonna go into Genesis 2:24. We're gonna go all the way to the beginning. Genesis 2:24. And this is what God has to say. Again, marriage, y'all. Actually, you know what? We're going to actually speak about... We're going to start with the 23rd verse in chapter 2 of Genesis. The man said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man. That is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh. Adam and his wife were both naked, and they felt no shame." Okay, so here clearly God is saying that in marriage, it says a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, not wives, and they become one flesh. So it's one man, one woman, one husband, one wife. No wives, no husbands. No. So, that was Genesis 2 verses 23 to 24. Now, we're going to go into 1 Corinthians 13, 2 through 7. So we're going to flip all the way back to the New Testament. Going to 1 Corinthians 13, verses 2 through 7. That's Acts. So where's Corinthians? Because it shouldn't be off too far from... That's Mark. That's Matthew. So then it's going to be... I think it's after Acts. Let's see here. That's Romans. Okay, so Romans comes after Acts. 2 Corinthians. Okay, cool. 1 Corinthians 13 through 2 through 7. 13, 2 through 7. 13, 2 through 7. Okay, and this is what God has to say towards marriage again, right? Okay. 13. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship, that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. Okay, so this is the meaning of real true love. As you can see, that's what it has to say about love. And of course, there is love in marriage. So we're going to speak on that. Well, we already did pretty much. Now, we're going to go into Ephesians 5:21 verses, verse 21 to 28. That's what we're going to go into. Oh, what do you know, Ephesians? That's crazy. Okay. And this is how husbands are to act to their wives. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands, as you do to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Okay. Oh, husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. In this same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. Okay, so we have another command by God about marriage and how you are to act to your wife. And now I will go into, let's go to Proverbs 18:22. Proverbs 18:22. Gonna go back into the Old Testament. Okay. That's Song of Songs. So that's Psalms right here. Job. I thought Proverbs comes after Psalms. Am I tripping? Yep, there it is. Okay, good. 18:22. 18:22. 18:22. 18:22. 18:22. 18:22. 18:22. 18:22. Okay, great. All right, perfect. Alrighty. We're going to go into Proverbs 18, verses 22. Ooh, okay. The Lord says, he who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord. Okay. God is speaking on husbands finding a wife. He said, he who finds a wife obtains favor from God. Now we're gonna go into the last verse, which will be Hebrews 13:4. Going into the New Testament. Okay, let's see. Hebrews 13:4. Hebrews 13:4. 13. 4, 13, 4, 13, 4, 13, 4, 13, 4, 13, 4. All right. Hebrews 13 verses 4. Marriage should be honored by all, in the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral. So clearly God has said marriage should be honored by all. He didn't say 1, 2, 3, 4. God clearly said all. And the marriage bed kept pure, because God is against adultery. And that is, in fact, when it's another party outside of the marriage. So, we're speaking on marriage. Now we're going to go into polygamy. But as you can see in the New Testament, Jesus speaks, and he has now changed the narrative of polygamy in the Old Testament. And he is clearly stating that it should be a one husband, one wife, one man, one woman. Again, so he is against polygamy. However, polygamy was practiced in the Old Testament, but he changed the narrative of it once you got into the New Testament. Now, and I will give you some examples of where polygamy actually happened in the Old Testament, but again, God changed the narrative of polygamy in the New Testament, because there's a whole new set of laws when Jesus came around, okay? All right. But, so we're going to go into 1 Samuel 1, verses 1 through 8. And this is going to speak of polygamy. Again, God is not for polygamy. Okay, 1 Samuel. You know what? Look, this is what we're going to do. Because that's 2 Chronicles. Isn't 1 Samuel before? Oh, what do you know? 2 Samuel. 1 Samuel. That's Ruth. We don't need Ruth. We're gonna go. Okay. There was a certain man from Ramathaim, a Zupite, from the hill country of Ephraim, whose name was Elkanah, son of Jeroham, the son of Elihu, the son of Tohu, the son of Zuph, an Ephraimite. He had 2 wives. One was called Hannah, and the other Peninnah. Peninnah had children, but Hannah had none. Year after year, this man went up from his town to worship and sacrifice to the Lord Almighty at Shiloh, where Hophni and Phinehas, the 2 sons of Eli, were priests of the Lord. Whenever the day came for Elkanah to sacrifice, he would give portions of the meat to his wife Peninnah and to all her sons and daughters. But to Hannah, he gave a double portion because he loved her, and the Lord had closed her womb. Because the Lord had closed Hannah's womb, her rival kept provoking her in order to irritate her. This went on year after year. Whenever Hannah went up to the house of the Lord, her rival provoked her till she wept and would not eat. Her husband Elkanah would say to her, "Hannah, why are you weeping? Why don't you eat? Why are you downhearted? Don't I mean more to you than 10 sons?" Okay, so I believe firmly this is why God had changed the narrative of polygamy in the Old Testament, because it was too much rivalry and jealousy between the wives. And I do firmly believe that God did not ordain for that to happen. And if you are in a polygamy relationship, that will happen. And so therefore it's more safe for it to be one husband and one wife. So it's not jealousy going on between two wives, and the home is not destroyed by jealousy and envy and rivalry and what happened in this specific polygamous relationship. So there you go. There was an example of polygamy, and the narrative of polygamy has also changed in the New Testament. So that's how marriage should be done: one husband, one wife, one male, one female. And if you like this video, like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, bless K Crew. Stay blessed.